Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm your host, Godwill, always here for you, and we're glad that you managed to tune in and support us once again this week. Thank you so much. We always go out of our way to find the best of the best. We go and find people in Africa making an impact and touching different places in their specific areas of expertise. Tonight is no different. And tonight, we take a deep dive, no pun intended, in the world of swimming, and we are joined by Coach Diego Kahlari, who happens to be a swimming coach. Diego, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you doing, man?
No, I'm very well, thanks. Thank you so much for making time to speak to us, eh?
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
It's weird times we find ourselves in, wrapped up in this pandemic and all this stuff going on. How's things been going your side?
Well, I think things have been going quite bad for everyone. Not only my side, but I think the whole world has been experiencing such things. So it's just all about trying to adjust and getting in place and trying to do your stuff. So it's trying to make a move and try to make everything work well.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And nowadays, health and well-being is definitely up there and on top of that list. So thank you so much for sparing this time. I know you're pressed for time. You're very busy in your work, which we're going to take quite a deep dive into. And hopefully 30 minutes is enough, because we always find that it's not enough time.
Yeah, true. 30 minutes is going to be enough.
It will be enough. You say you're a man of very few words, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
Now, look, you are someone in the world of swimming. Now, for me, of all sports, how did you find yourself in swimming?
Well, basically, I started swimming at the age of 4. But it was all play and games, just jumping into the water, diving in, playing and whatnot. But as I was growing up, that's when I decided, okay, I can actually do this thing. So I ventured into swimming, but not really professional swimming where I was being coached or anything like that. So I was just swimming. And there's one thing I also need to tell you guys, that I'm a size 12. So that's basically an inbuilt flipper on its own. So when I was growing up, I started swimming at the age of 4, then started swimming in primary school, all the way to high school. But now I didn't take it serious to that extent. By the time I got to high school, that's when I realized, okay, so I can actually swim. Let me try and actually swim in competitions and see how I'm going to do. So I started swimming, me and my twin brother, because I've got a twin though, if you guys didn't know. So when we started swimming, he was getting first place, I was getting second place. We used to alternate when it comes to that. So I used to swim. So he would get first place, I'll get second place. I get first place, he gets second place. So after that, that's when I realized, okay, so I'm really good at this thing. So I started training myself. Because I'm more of a visual learner, I see what people are doing and then I actually try and do it by myself. And then after that, I started swimming a lot. And then at Falcon, I went for a swimming competition. This was in my upper 6. There was only one guy who was swimming, who's black as well. And then we had a competition there. And then I thought I was going to get first place though, but I only managed to get a second place. So after getting a second place, I realized I just need to train more hard, because without training, you will never reach your goals.
Wow, and you've actually touched on an element that, often jumps to people's minds, but no one asks the question, as a young Black African, you and swimming are not always in the same sentence,
Exactly.
to say the least.
That's true. Because if you look at it in my way, when it comes to swimming, it's more of a white-dominated sport. And it's more of the elite, that if you go for swimming, it's only for the people who can afford swimming. But what people don't actually realize is that swimming is more of a life skill. So if people actually take that seriously with their kids, when they start at a very young age, it's going to be something great.
I love that. And I love how you put it to say it's actually a life skill, not just something that's done in competition. And, you know, the way you have put it across and with what you say you've also done, that's inspiring. And for us, that's what jumped out at us, is to say, look, there is a young Black African guy taking this to another level, and it's not just for a certain segment or for a certain part of the population. So for us, that's what stands out, breaking barriers, opening new doors. And, we say that, but did you face any stigma within swimming?
Oh, yes, definitely. You do face those things. But at one point, that's with me now, I'm more like I do not look at people like, or what society tells me. I go for my passion and I do what I love. So, for example, when I was in high school, people used to call me the Black Water Scorpion because I used to play water polo as well. And I used to do, so when I was swimming, it was one of those, if I do this, let me just get that trophy and stuff like that. So I used to give it all my all. Besides the fact that I didn't even train about it. I didn't even train. So the stigma is there, but what can we do? It's always there, man.
The Blackwater Scorpion, I love it. That it's not essential. If something like that was said today, definitely, there'd be lots of flags, and we do laugh about it, but it should have been difficult going through that yourself. Like I'm saying, like we're laughing about it now. And interestingly, you said you're a size 12. So I'm wondering, you must be really tall. And did you get involved in any other sport outside of swimming?
Oh, yes. I used to play rugby. I also played tennis. I played basketball. So I'm really a sporty person. And I'm 186 in height. I'm really tall. Okay, I don't know what tall is, but I know in Africa, 186 is really tall. So I'm very tall. I used to play rugby. I used to play for first team rugby. So I'm very sporty. If I just get a chance to practice and put myself into it, I would actually nail it. Although there's one sport that I actually didn't want to play, and until now I don't even watch that sport, which is football. So that's one thing that I don't love. So I don't know.
You were at risk of losing a fan because I thought you were going to say cricket. And that would just have been the end.
Nah. But when it comes to cricket, the problem is I don't like that ball. It's too hard, man. I used to play boozers cricket. I don't know, that you just want to play cricket, just not professionally or just to have fun, but not really to actually look into it.
So now, before we get into the meat and bones of this, I know you've given us your background of swimming, but who or what would you say really inspired you to get involved in swimming?
Okay, so what really happened was I just loved swimming when I was still young. So, getting those trophies, first place or second place, I was just like, okay, so why can I just not train about it and actually get these trophies? So swimming was just one thing. Nobody inspired me about that, of trying to swim or getting to know how to swim. But it was just because my parents were all about do what you want to do. It's your future. They were not helicopter parents where they actually show you that, okay, this is what I want you to do, or this is what you have to do. So I actually had to do it by myself. So like I said, me and my twin brother, we always loved swimming. Wherever we get to, if there's a swimming pool, why not? We just dived in, we just had fun. But in doing that, we also learned by ourselves.
Yeah, and you spoke about how your parents shepherded you throughout the journey and allowed you to express yourselves and find things out for yourselves, which is something that at Africa Sports Consultancy, we find is a big struggle in the African context, where normally the parent is driving the kid to do something that they may not particularly be interested in, but because the parent thinks that is what is the best for the child. And those are the things we seek to change. And if you're looking at our website, that's definitely a big drive of ours, where we look at personal development, and we want children to get that sort of support and to learn more about themselves, like you rightfully mentioned.
You're very right on that. I was actually, when I was studying for my courses, I met new words, or I learned new things, that in the world of swimming or any other sport, there's what we call helicopter parents and culling parents. In explaining to that, helicopter parents are overprotective parents. And when we say overprotective, they're very excessive in the interest of their children's lives. You know, so they want to say, okay, my child has to be like this, I'm this, so he or she has to be like that. And then we have to come to culling parents who try to sweep away all obstacles in their offspring's or path just for an easy life. And for me, that's I would say it's a no. Reason being, if a parent now, if a child is interested in something, do not block their future to try and do it. You know what I'm saying? So it's really a challenge, but that's what we're trying to change. You see? So for example, like these culling parents will be like, no, I struggled when I was growing up, so why should my child struggle? Which is really a bad thing, because one day, or let's say, I'm not saying it's really what's going to happen, but it's in quotes, it's a child has to know, or let me put it this way, do not let society or your parents decide your fate. Because if you're not there, how are they going to survive? You know, so you have to teach them the leeway of surviving as well, of to say, okay, I was told to be a doctor or a lawyer or this and that, but I am very good at this. You get me? So parents should actually, nowadays, should actually avoid that, especially to the African parents, to say, okay, swimming, what is swimming? My child will not get in the water because they're going to drown. Why not teach them from a very young age? You get it?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've just tuned in, he's not a life coach, by the way, if you're wondering. I think he does that on the side. We've got Coach Diego, who's a swimming coach, and he's joined us this evening, and we're having this conversation. And as he's rightfully said, you know, allowing children to express themselves is one of the things we look at. And if you want to learn a little bit more about that, visit our website, www.africasportsconsultancy.com, and have a look at the personal development space. Now, back to you, Coach Diego. Amazing stats that I didn't know, that you are one of only 4% of level 5 swimming coaches. Now, can you talk us through that? What does that entail?
Okay, so just to correct you on that, I did my courses with American Swimming Coaches Association. So American Swimming Coaches Association is a professional service organization based in a central theme of leadership in American swimming through education, certification, and cooperation, right? So I did my level 1, which is Foundations of Coaching. And then I went to do my level 2, which is stroke school. And then I went to do my level 3, which is the physiology of swimming. And then I went to do the level 4, which is the leadership of swimming. And then level 5, which is the administration of swimming. So I'm actually a member of the American Swimming Coaches Association and a level 5 qualified international coach. But to that 4%, I still have a long way to go, because the 4% now entails the swimming coaches that have swimmers that have actually reached Olympic level. And that will take me about 30 years into that realm. So basically what I'm trying to simply say is, when it comes to coaching, you can't just get a swimmer. I would rather have somebody who wants to learn, and then you start with the progression until they get to being a swimmer. So right now I'm starting from scratch, or I'm doing the progression up to all the way until we get to the Olympic level. So the 4% is really for those coaches who have been in the industry for more than 30 years and now have got Olympic swimmers who are swimming for Olympics. So I've just started with my journey, where now I've got to a level 5 of educational in swimming. So I can actually now start putting that into context. So for example, it's like a brain surgeon or a heart surgeon who has gone to varsity and done that, but now they're just waiting to start to distribute what they've learned to the swimmers. I hope that finds you well. Yeah. So I'm still on a journey to get to that.
100%. And look, I love the humility, and I love how you've come out and you've set that right, and you were starting right at the grassroots, and you want to see swimmers through, taking it right from the bottom all the way through. And what's fascinating about you is, so you went to school in Zimbabwe, now you are coaching swimming in Namibia. How have you found yourself in Namibia?
Okay, so basically, I'm not really to say I'm coaching here, because I'm still scouting. You know what they always say, that you move around and you want to try and get to a point where you see, because it's all about culture at the end of the day. Because if I go to a country where I don't understand the culture, how am I going to express myself to them? Because it's always about a mission and getting to people to trust you in what you're doing. So I'm not really per se to say that I am based here. I'm here to scout, so I can see, okay, is there a way to actually educate people on swimming, coming back to the students and the parents themselves? Because obviously when you start coaching a child and the parent doesn't understand what swimming is, you have to make sure that the parent also understands. So it's a way of just trying to scout and see, okay, this is how it's going to go, and try to introduce them to the sport of swimming, of which most people, they don't look at it as a sport. They look at it as having fun and just going in the water to cool themselves.
I really like that approach that you've taken, and you did mention earlier that swimming is not just about jumping in the water and having fun. It's actually a life skill, which is fundamental to what you have said. And, we've already got a few questions coming in. I can see them going on the chat, but we'll just run through one or two more questions on my side, and then we can go into those, and you can address those to our listeners. So in going on this journey that you've spoken about, what challenges have you faced in getting to where you have gotten to now as a coach?
Okay, the challenges that I've faced is, okay, it's dealing with parents, which is not a bad thing, because I think they always have to go on the side of the children, because I start coaching from a very young age. From the age of 8 months, which is PDS swimming, of which I haven't started with that, but I'm more into 2 years and going up. So now when you start coaching a 2-year-old, you will find they'll be crying, of which there's one thing that I always tell parents, that crying is an emotion. You put the child, when they start crying, don't worry about it. We can handle it. That's why we went to do these courses, so we can understand exactly what's going on. So it's challenge, especially from parents telling, no, my child this, my child that, but it's things that we learned, and you have to be very, how can I put it across? You have to be very patient when it comes to swimming, because some is the first time they're being in water. Some have got a fear of water. And for you to tell them just to relax, it's something that you have to do with progression. Take them step by step until they get to that. So challenges I faced, and most of it was just parents and kids. Sometimes some don't listen, some do listen, of which when it comes to that, girls listen more than boys, especially when they're very young. And it's actually a proven fact when we did our sports psychology, where you find boys just want to race. They just want to see who's the best and who's faster than somebody. But when it comes to girls, you will find that it's more of they listen and they try to do what you're telling them to do. So these are the challenges that we come up every day. If you're not a patient person, it's going to be something else.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I'm not a swimming coach, because I don't know how much patience I have personally.
Okay.
So hats off to guys like you going out there and making an impact in young people's lives, to be an inspiration and to be imparting a life skill, like you mentioned, to these young people. And, the last question I have from my side would be, we talk about swimming, and I know you said swimming is not merely a sport, it's also a life skill. But how do you see the combination of sport and education on young people?
Okay, so I'll start from scratch. When we say about education, you have to educate people about what water is, because some will just be like, okay, what if I just go in the water and then I try to come out? because, you know, I've been seeing a lot of clips of videos of people drowning, and you'll be asking yourself, how come a person cannot just swim or just stretch their hand to hold on so they don't drown? So when we say educate the people, we were trying to say, okay, before you enter the water, are you not afraid of water? Can you actually get into the water and try and save yourself? Because now when people ask you, for example, when people want to come for classes, you tell them it's 30 minutes per class, and they say only 30 minutes, but they don't know what work you have to put in to actually go for those 30 minutes. So you try and educate them from the word go that, okay, when we get into the water, for you to swim, you have to actually make sure that you've got the endurance to do it, and you actually can take it, and you're not going to panic. Because once you panic, that's when you start drowning. So you have to educate them in a way that you go slowly with them, progress by progress, stage by stage, until they get to know, okay, this is how it's going to work.
I like how you've taken that and put it in a swimming context, and it's absolutely brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Diego here. This is your chance to ask him whatever questions you may have. I know a few have come through on the chat, and we're going to start diving into them and see how far we can get. But feel free to post your questions at this point. He's here for you. He will give you those answers. So I'm just going to go in order of how I see them here. And I see there's one from Andy Finland. Andy, hope you're well. He says, over in England, you've got watches all the way in England, so no pressure. He says, over in England, swimming is catching on mainly rivers and lakes. Is that something you are seeing in South Africa, or is it seen as too dangerous?
Can you repeat that again? Sorry.
He says, so over in England, open swimming is catching on. That's mainly rivers and swimming in lakes. Is that something you're seeing in South Africa and surrounding areas, or is it seen as too dangerous?
No, that's what we call open water swimming. So open water swimming is usually for athletes or swimmers who have actually trained to actually swim in lakes and rivers. So for me, open water is actually what I would love to do, because my goal is to swim in the English Channel. So it's not really dangerous. The only thing that is dangerous about swimming in lakes and rivers or oceans is that when you take kids or adults who cannot swim, just advise them not to play too much in the water, because you never know, especially in oceans, you never know what current is there and how the waves are operating. If you cannot swim against the current, why go in the water? And you know, the problem is we never see how it is in the oceans or rivers, because it's too dark. You might get to a point where you just slip and you fall. And sometimes, you know, a funny thing I want to tell you guys is you can even drown in a bathtub. If you don't have the knowledge of swimming, do not try and take chances to just go in the water. That is very dangerous. Leave it to the people who know how to do it.
You can drown in a bathtub. That one. So I might have a few people to advise not to take baths. They'd rather just shower. They're probably safer.
No, not really. When I say you can drown in a bathtub is, you know, usually sometimes it's not because it's too deep, but when you panic, you don't think. So you're trying to save yourself. For example, if I see my friend trying to drown, I will not jump into the water. Reason being, if I jump into the water, I don't know what kind of, is the person relaxed, or if I tell them to calm down, will they do it? The only thing that they will do is try to push you down so they can take a break. So what we are advised to do is to throw in something which is long, then you can pull them out. But it's actually different when it comes to kids, because when the kids are drowning, you can actually go in and save them. That's why you see sometimes they'll be stories whereby an Olympic swimmer or a master swimmer drowned while trying to save somebody. It's because you're trying to save somebody who's almost your weight. And also once you go inside, they don't have anything to hold on to but besides you. You see, so swimming in rivers is actually cool. If Florian is actually there in England, tell him one day I'll actually visit him and we can go to the English Channel, because that's my dream.
Yeah, and he is watching, so I'm sure he will hold you to that one day.
Yeah.
I'll go on to the next question. It's from, Simba Gonese. And he says, how do you encourage someone who's had a near drowning incident to take up swimming? It's a brilliant question, actually.
Oh yes, that is one thing that, every time before I have classes, I always try to assess. So by assessment, I try to ask them, okay, did you have any near drowning experience or a traumatic experience? So that you know exactly that when you deal with such people, you take them stage by stage. That's why we always have a statement that they say, do not coach the swimmer that is in front of you, but rather coach the person who is in front of you. You see, so you don't coach somebody just because they came for swimming. You don't know exactly their past experiences. So the best way is to ask them. They tell you what's going on. If you see that, okay, they had a traumatic experience, then you take them slowly until they get to a point where they say, okay, now they're comfortable to go in.
Interesting. And you mentioned something earlier. Before I take this next question, I can see in the chat, you mentioned something about how you get top swimmers, drowning or trying to save someone. And I'm no expert, but I have heard that when someone is actually drowning, sometimes it's worthwhile to sort of hang back a bit, let them tire a little bit, and then you go in. Or is that completely wrong?
Okay, let me ask you one thing. When you say tired, you know that when you panic, you'll be drinking a lot of water, especially if you don't have an experience of swimming. And for you to drown doesn't take a lot of seconds. So usually when it's an adult who's almost my size, or I can see this person if I go in the water because I've got nowhere to hang on to, what's the next thing I should do? I throw in something so they can hold on to it, and then I pull them out. But if it's someone I can see, okay, I can overpower this person, I can jump in. Because somebody who's really now trying to save themselves, they've got that power where they cannot even say, okay, the next thing, I'm just going to push this person down so I can take a breath. So it's really something that we wouldn't want to advise people, that if somebody is drowning, jump in or wait until they tire. How do you know they're going to tire by that time? Because they can tire while they're already underwater, and it's really difficult.
Well, thank goodness I'm not a swimming coach, because lots of people will be drowning while I wait for them to tire.
No, but the first thing that the main objective when people come for classes is safety first. Because you cannot have a class of swimmers where you have 20 swimmers and you're not a chameleon where you can roll your eyes and see everyone at the same time. So the main objective is always safety first.
Safety first. We like that. Now, the last question I'll take, this is in the chat here. I'm looking at it here. It says, is it ever too late to start swimming?
It's never too late, man. It's never too late. You can start from the age of 8 months, because I've got a story of 2 people, and I don't know if you have much time so I can explain to you, but I'll just take it just a bit. Okay, so there was one lady, she came, she had okay, no problem. But it's never too late. Anytime you can start swimming, because it's actually, I prefer swimming because it's a good exercise.
Yeah. Okay, so look, we can go into that detail, but there's one more question that's just come through, and we've got 2 minutes to go. I would have left it, but let's have a look at it. It is from Nath Tour Guide, and it says, Diego, what are your plans for increasing the number of Namibian youth that have access to swimming lessons?
Okay, like I said, I'm still scouting. It's not like I'm here permanently. So once I see that there is potential, of which I'm willing to go around Africa, because I've got a mentor. His name is Larry Lawson. He's the one who's mentoring me through all this. And Larry is actually an executive director of World Swimming Coaches Association. So despite the fact of I'm still trying to see whether there is potential for me to actually take, if there is a potential, I'm willing to go the extra mile to take everyone who's willing to do that.
Well, that's great to hear. There is hope from what I'm hearing from you. And like you're saying, it sounds like you will do whatever it takes, be it facilities, be it providing your skills. And we know that our youth, be it in Namibia, but all across Africa, have hope if there's people like you around. We are really, really pushed for time, but there's one question I can't let you go without answering, please, because I know there's lots of young people who will run into this video or see it at some point. Now, it's what message would you have for a younger Diego? When you were younger, what message would you tell yourself now if you could go back in time?
Okay, well, the only thing I can tell them is don't trade who you are for who you think the world needs. Because the world needs you to be who you are. Okay, so, and it's not about who you are today, and it's about who you want to become. So do not let society or people decide your fate. And also there's one statement that I learned from American Swimming Coaches Association that, and this goes to all the sports, even in cricket, football, whatever, you name it. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes habit, and practice only makes perfect if you execute it exceptionally well. So guys, whatever you're trying to achieve, do not think if you practice hard, you're going to do it. So you have to practice it in a way that you know that, okay, I'm doing the exact thing and I'm doing it according to what I'm supposed to do. Because you might practice for 4 or 5 years, and then at the end of the day, you're not doing nothing. So practice doesn't make perfect. It makes habit.
Very profound. And I keep asking myself, if you're only a swimming coach, you know, I'm wondering if you're also a life coach, because those are very profound words. But look, thank you so much for that. And we wish you all of the best. And we hope to see you make a bigger impact in the world of swimming. You know, swimming needs a lot of people like yourself, a lot of relatable people for the young African to be able to point to. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. And thanks to Coach Diego for making time to be with us here tonight. And we just want to wish you again, hopefully that you'll be here again for us next week, watching us and seeing who we've got next. And next, we've got a very exciting prospects. But until then, would like to advise you to keep safe. COVID is still a reality. Keep sanitizing, keep your masks on, keep safe. Look after your loved ones. And again, next week, same time, same place. From my side, it's goodbye and good night.